Lily, welcome to the Smile Podcast.
Thank you.
This is like over a year in the making.
I know.
Right?
It's
just crazy.
I've honestly lost track. We've been so busy, life happening. It's all right. It's happening now.
Yeah.
And we're present with
Yeah.
it.
Timing, I think is gonna be perfect. So,
Divine timing, as I should say.
Yeah. So I guess I'll introduce just like how I know you, and then we'll dive in because I think we've already been talking for a few hours on so many amazing things. So we got to press record now because our conversations
like forever.
I absolutely love that when you find someone that you're like, man, we should have recorded that. That was fantastic. Just phone calls and all sorts of stuff. So I met you through working at Westcliff, but also like a student because we graduated, like went to graduation, sat next to each other during graduation, college graduation. Only took me 14 years. But so in the mix of all the millions of jobs that I had at Westcliff, I got to work with the softball team in the weight room and then health and wellness and all the things. And I think you guys were more of my friends than anything.
Right. I would always call you my coach, mentor, friend. And now you're just friend.
Yeah.
And it involves all of those things.
I love that so much. I think that's like my dream because I have so many of like my high school athletes that I've coached that are such good friends like still to this day. And even like I'm like friends with the high school and college kids. That's my thing.
It's a vibe.
Yeah, I love it. It's just kind of my coaching style, I guess, too. But so that's how we know each other. We have like had the best conversations with like the whole gamut, you name it, just about life in general. And your story in particular is just so cool to me because I feel like you kind of like lived out at one point what I wish I would have done as far as like going back to compete in track and field after I had left. And so I'll let you like get into that. But I think I was almost living through you a little bit with this scenario because
that's part of coaching too.
100%. And I really enjoyed just like watching you like grow and make these decisions for yourself. And it was really, really fun to see where you are now and like what you're doing. It's insane. And hopefully we just like keep working things like out to, run some businesses with each other and all the things in sports performance and mental coaching, like insane. So I will turn the mic over to you and just let you like tell us a little bit about yourself, your sport, what you're doing right now, and kind of like what some of your future plans are.
Right. Well, recently I had gotten my master's degree in sport performance psychology.
Right.
Previous to that, where we know each other from, I got my bachelor's at Westcliff in business admin, so very general. I thought I was going to get my AA in psych, but I ended up transferring so I could play softball right around COVID time.
Yeah.
So from there, I went to decide to go get my master's degree. It was kind of one thing led to another, and I can kind of get into that a little bit too. And then, I made the decision to finish out my softball career that I decided to not continue right away.
Right.
So currently right now I'm working on volunteer hours to get my certification as a mental performance consultant.
Right.
So that is my passion, and still currently trying to figure out what my true passion is.
Yeah.
I'm 24 going on 25, so I've got some time.
Yes.
But I think that is the stage that I'm in right now, really basing that off of helping people. And I know that I want to do that, whether that's with softball, mental performance, which has lots of different avenues. You can work with business people, first responders, performers, musicians, athletes, etc. So, just kind of going from there.
So that's so fun. I love it. And we had you come work with Mission Viejo High School track team, the girls side, and it was really fun because it's like this is the stuff I wish I would have known. Like the mental skills coaching stuff is what I wish I would have had like in my arsenal and like really understood the benefits of it. And so So I'm passionate about passing on the things I wish I would have known as an athlete. And so to see an introduction to sports psychology to these athletes that need it, I feel like the most right now, this like rising generation just deals with so many things that like I didn't have to deal with
Right.
growing up with like social media and high school and all the things. And so they loved having you come every Monday. We had
I loved it.
our mental,
It
our
was a great use of my time.
I
It
know.
was so beneficial being able to contribute that time not only to me learning, but it's really cool and rewarding that I get to put my time towards those volunteer hours, but I'm also making other people better.
Yeah.
Like even though I'm learning, I
So
still get to, change or not change, but turn my experiences and the knowledge that I've gained from school,
right.
but into actual
Yeah.
benefits for them as athletes.
It's so fun. And it's like you're in school forever and then being able to see the practical application of the things that you're learning like so immediately is so fun. So we loved having you there. And some of the things that I'm doing is I want to bring on experts to help people with that like mental performance aspect because I think that's an untapped market for especially here in Orange County for people that are parents I should say that are spending so much money in the physical performance like aspect of things and I think that what these young athletes really need is a solid like mental and emotional like performance like understanding and then like the physical part just I think it comes more naturally than learning these mental skills and after watching the Olympics you see all as I just like track and field especially just they're out there with their journals they're writing things down they're like telling themselves like things right before they're about to go
mindfulness
jump
exercises right before and
yes
breathing exercises, visualization.
right so that's like that's the thing I think that's untapped in the like young athlete market so I'm just like obsessed with what you do because I wish I knew more to implement it so that's why I'm having you on here
I'm learning every day. I'm still I think even when I was playing softball in college, I was always a student of the game, and I
right
think that phrase will carry on with me throughout life.
yeah
I don't have my doctorates. Maybe in the future I
yeah
will go back to school, but for now I'm considered a applied sports psychologist. So all
yeah
these concepts that I learn are going to be applied to my work, and with that certification I'm pursuing, that will all work hand in hand and be a consultant in that way.
yeah
But
definitely
learning every day, like
yeah
I will know something tomorrow that I didn't know today.
yeah
When it comes to helping people, and you depends on who you encounter and what kind of scenario that you're put in.
of course that's really cool so I want to ask like what made you decide to go into sports psychology after graduating from Westcliff like when did you figure out that you wanted to get your master's in sports psych
Yes, so I will actually rewind because it doesn't necessarily make sense unless I tell you how I even got into softball in the first place in
yes
sports.
it's all connected
Yeah, everything's connected, and I think it just created a ripple effect into my life because I I really was just a passionate kid. I loved adventuring, being outside, but
yeah
my dad was always playing music. He had his little DJ set up growing up, and I got into musical theater, and so I was head over heels for Singing in the Rain
amazing
and all those musicals that I cannot name right now because I'm out of the game, right? But I had a passion for that. I did musical theater up until seventh grade, and it was around maybe the year before that I even began to watch baseball with my dad.
yeah
And he's like, "Hey, there's a girl version.
there's a girl version
It's called softball. We're huge San Francisco Giants fans, so
yeah
that year it was 2010. The Giants won the World Series. That's the year I got into baseball, and my team won. So the example of the championship team that year was amazing to ride off of
yeah
and build that drive to get to know the sport.
yeah
Obviously, softball and baseball have their differences, but I decided, to go to the park and started throwing the tennis ball with my dad. I couldn't catch a tennis ball at 11 years old.
Hey,
Serious.
I think most can. So
Well, compared to the world of softball, it is very common. Though I have met many athletes who are in a similar boat as me growing up that ended up starting to play softball really late.
yeah,
Like me.
yeah,
That was considered late. I
right.
didn't play t-ball. I didn't play
That
little
makes
league.
sense because at 11, yeah, I remember my brothers playing like t-ball and little league and all that stuff, very young age.
Yeah.
So
And so it was kind of put into that little league pool for 2 years until I decided to just throw myself into travel ball. A couple lower end travel ball teams to start off with, but I was 14 playing on an 18U team.
okay,
And I was the kind of kid that would put up a bonet in a tee and hit at night with the floodlight.
Yeah.
My dad probably got some pictures
oh,
somewhere.
I love that.
And doing ladders in the rain, and I was addicted to the grind.
Yeah.
As soon as I discovered that I could go to college and maybe even play at the higher level, I dreamt of softball being a professional sport. Huge dreamer.
Yeah.
And softball is growing professionally now, so that's great. And so come high school, it was tough. Had to get through junior varsity, lots of politics in high school. But I still had that goal in mind. I didn't really let up on the gas. I was just full force, and there was lots of trends with getting recruited at the time.
Yeah.
And
For college?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was very who do you know based, much like the world that we live in anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to maybe around junior, senior year, I put myself out there. Got an offer at a smaller school, NAIA, and then ended up being too much, so just decided to keep looking.
Yeah.
I was the kind of kid that would go to a college campus and look for someone connected to the sports team, or hey, where's the softball office? Can I see if the coach is in? Or leave a message, send multiple emails. I had to put in the work in order to get what I really wanted, because I started so late. And now looking back at it, I was definitely not at the skill set at that time, but I was so ambitious.
I love that.
And now I know from a coaching perspective that if I saw a kid that was coming into my office, that would leave an impression on me, because heck, that was me as a kid.
Yeah.
Right?
So cool.
And so it was funny. I was a little perfectionist by the time I got into my senior year, and I really wanted to go to this school that I had gone to visit on spring break, and I did that process of finding the coach, and they let me stay and watch practice. And she's like, really great to meet you, thanks for staying, let's keep in touch, why don't you send me some clips of your swing and your throwing and what position you play, etc. And I was too late. I took too long to record myself, to show her my skill set. She really just needed just a little clip. I thought it had to be like this big production.
Oh no.
Yeah. So by the time I emailed it to her, she's like, I'm so sorry, I'm done recruiting the 2018 class. And I was like, all right, shoot. Well, maybe it wasn't meant to be. I was super bummed. And then I'd gotten some other offer at a D2 in Oregon, and for some reason my mom was advising me not to make that decision right away.
Interesting.
Just because it was right in front of me. Like it was a while ago now, so I don't remember quite why, but just because something's right in front of you and it's being offered to you doesn't necessarily mean that it's meant to be for you in that moment.
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's what I learned from that scenario. That'll come back in.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay.
Yeah. And then, so I graduated not knowing where I was going to school, and then a little junior college reached out to me in Nebraska, wanted me to come on a visit after the big softball tournament in Colorado. I go up there, look at the school, and I was like, wow, this is way the heck out there.
Yeah.
Culture shock, smells like cows. Like, there's nothing. There's no Starbucks. 45 minutes to Starbucks. What? But but it was very wholesome, very small town in Nebraska. And I ended up committing there
Wow.
and going for my freshman year. I would not trade that experience for the world. That culture shock that I got to live through, and that time that I was away from my family, I think it was super important for those lessons that I had to learn.
Yeah.
I learned that I was always a big fan of the phrase "everything happens for a reason." Very popular phrase.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I had someone tell me, someone of authority, that Lily, sometimes things don't happen for a reason at all. And I'm like, really? So that kind of sent me into a depressive state.
Yeah.
Had some problems with the upperclassmen, and some of my friendships were kind of rocky at the time. And then I started to miss my family come March. Wasn't getting playing time. I think I honestly think I went in there with a hot head. I was from California. I'm super stoked to be on this team in the middle of the Midwest.
Yes.
And I'm totally going to get playing time. I put in all this work. I was really excited.
Yeah.
I was really excited. And then that was my first humble pie, I think, of the last 6 years. It's been 6. Dang. And then after that, I decided to come home. That was just a really hard time.
Yeah.
And then luckily, thank goodness, COVID had happened while I took that year to be at home and go play locally.
Oh, interesting.
Because I'm originally from the Bay Area.
Right.
Hence, SF Giants fans.
Yes.
And I loved that time that I was 5 minutes from school. I got to live with my family. And even there, I found myself not understanding why the hard work I was putting in wasn't being shown to me in results on the field, which was hard. I think every athlete has that hardship. And, I basically walked onto the team inside another junior college, so they can't necessarily say no unless I really, really don't have the skill set. And it's a class, so
Okay.
I was in the class and then obviously on the varsity squad.
Yeah.
We only had one team. I picked up catching because we only had one catcher. Shout out to Haley if she ever listens to this. But I really had a great time. I think there was a pivotal moment from the fall going into spring that I had to reintroduce myself to my coach. Really, really great guy.
Right.
I think he was one of my more chill coaches, and I think I didn't know how to handle that because I've had a range of different coaching over the years. Have had to make some decisions to leave travel ball teams back in high school and try to find the right fit, which is interesting now because that seems to be the trend in NCAA, where people are just jumping in the portal and switch and jump and ship. So, but I reintroduced myself to my coach because to him, I was giving off non-coachable energy. And when I found that out, I was like, that is not going to cut it. That is not who I am. So I basically sat down with him in his office and be like, hey, I'd really like to restart. I know we have dwindling positions and we need leadership on the team. And I'm a sophomore and I need to step it up.
Wow.
And so a girl ended up leaving and I ended up being the starting third baseman after, getting in there and like showing him that I can hold down the position and kind of stepped up to the plate in that sense. And then boom, hey guys, our season was canceled. And I was like, oh heck no. I'm like, just my luck.
Yeah. Like I just got there.
I don't know if you have any experiences like that as well.
Yeah, I think, for me, it was like after I had quit competing, it was a lot of me like wanting to get back to competing. And with track, because I was done like after the 2 years that I was just like miserable and really unhappy at BYU, I knew I needed a change. And looking back, maybe a redshirt year, maybe like something else would have been, I don't know if I would have known, because I was the first athlete in my family, like college athlete. And so we didn't really know how to like work the system in that with as far as like maybe taking some
Right.
time off and figuring things out. And just even the fact that I was depressed, like had no
Were you the
idea.
youngest?
I'm number 2 out of 4. Yeah.
Okay.
So an older.
I'm the older out of 2.
Okay.
It's just me and my little brother.
Yeah.
So I was kind of my parents' guinea pig.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I was I was kind of like the athlete guinea pig, and then my younger brother played lacrosse, but they like were kind of like pay to play because they were just
Right.
a club at the time.
Right.
But yeah, it was really interesting because anytime that I knew that you could compete unattached with track and field. So if I wanted to, I could pay to like run in a race. And so that hung over me and has still hung over me to this day. I always talk about it. I'm like, I'm going to jump in a race. And I have. But anytime that I was like gearing up to like get into it, something crazy would happen. When I went back to go to BYU had a position open to work as a massage therapist. And I like wanted to finish my degree. It was like this, I'm going to finish what I started thing from like my track career and school and everything else.
I mean, you put in work. You worked hard to get to that point.
And I was like mentally and emotionally, I realized what I had and I kind of like want that back so bad. And so I moved up I was dating someone at the time that was like up there. I had moved up there. And it was kind of like, oh, my life's on this track. Like, maybe I'll marry this person. Like, I'm going to work as a massage therapist for the track team. I can train with them and do all this stuff. And then I got hit with like, oh, you're out of eligibility.
Right.
Okay, like, well, I can still compete unattached. And then it was like, oh, actually, we filled the position, like without telling me. And I moved my whole entire life up there. So it was like and other times, like I got shut down with car accidents. Anytime I geared myself to like mentally, emotionally to like get back into competing or do something, I was like, I was in a couple car accidents over the last like 10 years. And so it was always something like, why does God speak to me through car accidents? I don't know. But then that shifted me to another direction to like that I learned something. And in the end, you know, it all works out. But I got hit so many times. And the first time coming back from BYU with thinking I was like, I had this idea. I was going to the Olympics. I was going for it. I was doing everything. And I had this like obsession because I just, anyway, so when I came home, that like I crashed and burned, broke up with the person. I had no job. I had left and like kind of burned all my connections with like leaving so fast because I had a massage business I was running here and I left it all to like, so it was a nightmare. But that point of like you're gearing up, you're ready to go, you have worked so hard to put your energy into something and then just gets taken out from underneath you.
I found that to be kind of a trend. Maybe not as that was very visual.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Because you think you're going somewhere and then you're flat on your back.
It kind of reminds me of, you know, there's those I don't know if that's necessarily a magic trick, but you know, people skillfully pull the
tablecloth
and leave all the silverware and the plates and the glasses, and they stay.
That's skill.
That's kind of how I've pictured like everything kind of panning out. Like, okay, something goes wrong, I land on my feet, kind of thing.
It's like a cat.
Yeah, you just read my mind.
I had to put that on there.
Yeah, right. So when I was at home, I found out right before I found out about Westcliffe's opening.
Okay.
And that was going to be the first softball team in history at Westcliff. They're still a very new school, but very cool to just say that, you know, down the road when they established themselves even more, like you could say we were that first, you know.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So I found out about that D2 school in Oregon. School completely shut down.
No way.
Yeah. So
like the athletics department shut down?
The school. I think the school closed.
Because that was happening a lot. Because when I was recruiting with Westcliff, they'd be like, oh, this school just shut down their athletics department. Like, go recruit. Right. And so was that during COVID?
Yeah, I think it was like towards the end of COVID. And it would have been funny because if I had gone there, I'd only gotten through school like barely a year and a half.
Oh, my goodness.
So that was that school that my mom was advising me, like, hey, maybe you should just weigh out all your options.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Love that.
Well, look how that kind of happened. And now I'm like working my butt off, of course, not being able to throw as consistently and just be on top of like softball stuff, hitting live gameplay, right?
There's only so
Everyone
much you
kind of
can do in the
struggles.
backyard, right?
Yeah.
Like with
I mean, I kept my agility up. I probably got most fit I had been that whole time. And then moving to Irvine was probably the best thing I could have done. Like, this is the longest besides high school and everything, this is the longest time I've resided in one place. Like,
wow.
this was Westcliffe's my third school, all for good reason.
Yeah.
Right? But my path has always led me to like change. So for me to find an area that was like very comforting was super exciting for me. Got to I kind of got guaranteed that we were going to be playing that following year.
And was this 20?
I got here fall of 2020.
Okay.
August.
Okay.
Yeah.
And because I know they had shut everything.
I've been here 4 years.
That's crazy. So because
At least in SoCal.
Yeah, because I was officially hired March of 2020. So that year they Westcliff shut everything down.
It was a spring of 21 where we were supposed to compete.
That's right. And
I think they wanted to save money. We weren't the only school that did that. Yeah. There was other schools out there that did that.
But I remember because everybody was getting excited. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they went back and forth on it for
there
a
was
while.
Like half year, there was a lot of transfers that came in January that were expecting like, hey, I want to go to a school we're going to play.
Yes.
Nope.
That's right. That was
no season.
Yeah, that was
so now,
the first of many different.
So not only am I'm entering my senior year of college as a sophomore on the field, eligibility wise.
Yeah.
My original coach had left the school. That probably left a lot of mental turmoil on us. Also considering that we were practicing all spring, got really close with my teammates now who are some of my best friends.
Yeah, and she had built that program, and
she built that program.
So
she recruited. That team was stacked.
Yeah,
I have to tell you, we were.
She was no joke. She was no joke. She was a fiery personality, like well respected, but really stood up for what she believed in, always on calls and everything else. So shout out to Coach Sony.
Yeah, she's one of my favorite people.
Yeah,
in the world. And she said I wasn't going to coach anymore. She's totally still coaching.
Yeah,
I didn't believe her.
We can never get away from it. Truly. Yeah,
she's passionate and she's good people. So, in this case, everything does happen for a reason.
Yeah.
Entering my senior year, we got a new coach. I'd say she's a younger coach, and I'm speaking from times of acceptance that I've had since that year.
Yeah.
Obviously, lots of disclosed information, but I can just list them for you just to get an idea. But there was communication issues, not only with me and the coach, but coached with other people, just all over. And that kind of had an effect on my relationships too at the time. But we all had each other as well. We got through it. And then, not to mention, let me rewind. I found out I had almost tore my labrum like that summer going into my senior year. That's pivotal. I totally forgot that detail. I was totally injured.
So another thing that had kind of shut it down.
Yeah, I called Sony and she was totally supportive. Secretly, I was really happy that my shoulder was kind of hurting and I couldn't run gassers, but I was also later on very sad that I couldn't run gassers.
Yeah.
And lift and stuff.
Of course.
I couldn't bear that weight. I need some water, actually.
Yeah, I remember all this kind of from like a working at Westcliff like perspective, and then
you were my person.
Conversations.
You caught me at a really, really bad time a couple times.
Yeah,
but that was perfect timing because then we wouldn't have like stuck through in our relationship and friendship. So it's awesome. So I was injured. I didn't need surgery, thank goodness.
Yeah.
I just had to go through PT. Thankfully, Westcliff, provided that resource. And little did I know that injury literally wrote the rest of like the next 2.5 years for me.
Oh my goodness.
Because in that PT office, I met someone that was in the program that I would end up enrolling for at Cal Baptist.
Oh,
Yeah. And so that's how I got connected with the director, Dr. Malden, over there at CBU. She's one of my favorite human beings in this world. And, only known her
yeah.
2.5 years now,
Yes.
just from when I first talked to her over Zoom. But I had just made that connection. I was like, oh yeah, maybe I knew I wanted to get my master's and maybe I could try to go play
Right.
at CBU.
Yeah.
But long story short, made that connection. So thought about it for a while, see where I would be at the end
Yeah.
of my senior year. Graduated, still have 2 years of eligibility. I've dealt with trauma as well. There was a little bit of trauma that senior year.
Yeah.
Roommate difficulties. I think a lot of people have that problem. There should be some sort of system. Maybe I can vent it down the road, but
I know.
there should be
It's
some
like,
sort of system because in psychology, there's literally a concept that it really takes about 3 months for you to actually get to know a person and until they show their true colors. So if there has to be some sort of system that we could find roommates that get along with each other. And
yeah.
but that's also where lots of life lessons come from.
Yeah.
So
That's I forgot about all that.
Yeah.
We'd be, oh my gosh, the things like this girl has like actually been through. It's like starting to like come
they're
back.
confidential. They're
Yeah,
confidential.
we're not
And
going to get into it, but she's been through it. And yeah, and we won't dive into university.
Yeah.
But
But
either, but
for
all
the
the
main
things.
topic, so finally back to square one
Yeah.
of your
But
question.
no,
and
this is
how
your athlete story. This is what I
Yeah.
want. This is what I want to do to talk
and
about.
it took me a while to actually be able to talk about this. I
I
probably could have
know.
talked about a lot of this without shedding a tear a little bit. And so I graduated from Westcliff. I enrolled at Cal Baptist. I said bye to Irvine and my friends, even though it's only 40 minutes away. It's
But
okay.
still, it's like the IE's like
Yeah.
out there.
It is.
Far
And
enough away.
for the longest time, I've gotten close with people, but I kind of forgot what it's like to go to a new place
Yeah.
on my own and like kind of flourish as me for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I kind of felt like I was in a scenario with college athletics at that time that I was in and post-COVID that I had to put on some sort of phase, or I just had to do it just to do it, not rather than for the right reasons. Like my why, my purpose, wasn't really sure of it when I finished because I did not get what I really wanted out of my softball career, but I got everything I didn't know that I wanted out of my softball career.
And this is how we've connected because the same thing happened to me at track. Yeah.
Yes. And I love your story too. Everyone go listen. And anyway, so I actually tried to attempt to be one of the grad assistants there at Cal Baptist, and I ended up quitting later that fall. I quit. I didn't get let go. I quit that job on my own. I made that decision because I realized that I didn't not want to help and do the things that were asked of me, but I think that I needed to really focus on what I was doing and, more importantly, utilize that free therapy on campus. Because I was really living the athlete identity crisis in the flesh, and I had just learned like deeper about the topic in our advanced sports psych class.
Yeah.
And
what a place to like figure that out.
Right. So I'm like I'm like going through therapy while in class, basically.
Yeah.
And it was only me and a couple other people that were around the same age that were just former athletes that just came out of it. So it was only really us that could really relate to that topic. But I was really struggling. I would find myself in tears in my therapy sessions and having to talk about everything from like A to B to C to D. And one of my favorite exercises I did was write a letter to my sport. This is one of my favorite things to do and have athletes do that are in a transitional stage, leaving, especially if they're not continuing to play into a professional career, which does happen, but not very small percentages. I don't know the percentage, but I'm gonna look that up later because I'm a nerd about it. But anyways, I was living through it. I had some anxieties I didn't realize I had. I really enjoyed living on my own. I don't think that
Uh-huh.
was like the bad part. I didn't have a campus experience really since my freshman year.
Yeah.
Um, and this was a very beautiful campus, so I loved the atmosphere. Made really great connections with my cohort, and it was just a very supportive experience. And then fast forward to the spring, I got an opportunity to study abroad going into summer session. There's a break in between spring
Yeah.
and summer, and um, my mentor interviewed me for one of the spots, and I got it. So I got to go to London. And I think one of my key points in that interview was that I was involved in sports for so long that I know many people that have done lots of traveling, and I'm like, I've never been out of the country, or
Yeah.
maybe I haven't even been past like Texas, Nebraska. I've been
Yeah.
to Florida.
Yeah.
That's
I'm on the
that's about
same
it.
boat here. Yeah.
That's about it. So, anyways, lots of opportunities just coming one after the other. Like I said to you, I'm working on hours right now.
Yeah.
I could have finished it during my program, but I got to this point where I need to focus on myself rather than kind of drown myself in hours at the
Yeah.
moment. And I'm the kind of person, if I'm going to go devote my time to get volunteer hours and help people, I want to do it in a meaningful way and
Yes.
one that it can help me get better, and then obviously them. That's the main
Right.
goal, right? Forget about me. I'm just kidding. Um, therapists need therapists.
It's true.
It is very true. I'm like a glorified therapist, though. I'm Coach Lily. All right,
Yes.
that's what I will go as.
Right.
Even when I get into more of the consulting side of things, like I hope to be referenced as coach because I'm not going into this to
Yeah.
fix people.
It's like
No
mental
one's broken.
skills coaching, like pretty much, right?
Yeah, no one's broken. It's no one's broken. You are learning new things
Yeah.
and growing. And if you feel broken, come talk to me because I will tell you that you're not, and I will guide you the right direction.
Amen.
Yeah, right. And anyways, I graduated in December. So basically, all those bits and pieces of my career, softball career, leading up to going to grad school, it wasn't about until maybe July, August of last year where I started to think about, wow, what did I do? I stopped softball. Like I've
Yeah.
worked. It didn't really hit me until
Yeah.
later, until I realized I'm going to be walking the stage again. So I'm like, you know what? Why not? Worst they could say is no. I'll reach out to my old coach. Reach out to her. She's like, yeah, totally. Green light. I will
Yeah.
give you that opportunity. Because I was a full-time student, I used 1 year of my eligibility to go to grad school.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it like NCAA has like a time clock within like you have to complete
Yeah.
within like 6 years or
Yeah.
something?
But anytime you're enrolled as a full-time student, you are using those terms of attendance.
Oh, right.
Because those, they don't tell you. I mean, they do,
Yeah. It's not
they don't
broadcasted.
remind you
Uh-huh.
that when you're still going to school, you're still using up your eligibility. Because it's terms of attendance, and then what's the other thing? It's seasons of competition,
Yeah, something like
something
that.
like that. I feel like
I'll
I'm
have to
getting
ask
that wrong.
Rachel. Yeah.
I'm getting that wrong. I'm so getting that wrong now. But anyways, moral of the story. She had gotten fired 3 weeks later, I think, from that conversation.
Oh,
So
right.
I was like, oh no. So I have really no in right now. So I had to try to get a hold of people. I was kind of going crazy. I'm
Yeah.
like, no. She said yes. How's this going to follow through? Like, I really just want the chance to see my sport in a different light after going to grad school.
Yeah.
And having those skills that I've put together, I knew that, emotions may come back up.
Right.
And it may be a hard time.
Right.
And you know what? It did. It did. I had to separate the sports psych cap and really make sure I'm being an athlete.
Yeah.
And then I found myself putting pressure on myself. But there were also really great moments
Right.
that I didn't get to sit back and enjoy my last year because there was so much trauma and just
Yeah.
like just sport turmoil, as I will just say it is right now, because it's not easy being a student athlete at all.
No.
I mean, you lived through it too. Like, it's not easy to find that balance.
Right. It's really not. And so I just like commend you for like going after it and just being like, hey, because we had several conversations about it, and that's how Lily knows my story so well, is because I'm like, if I was in your shoes, like at a certain point, like I would kill to go back and just
Yeah.
even just like close that
I remember
chapter.
telling you, you're like, oh my gosh, yes.
Like, you do it for me. Like, but I think
Because I was thinking about it for a while. Like I had talked to you about it a few times.
a while, and so I think for you to make that decision, I hope it brought like some like closure at some point, but I think I'm like proud of you for just like separating like, okay, maybe what the world thinks I should go do with like finishing my hours and everything else, but you like took a pause to truly like feel inside and like what does my soul need, and like what do I need for myself, and like taking that break. And so I think that is just a very smart move, and I think a lot of people should stop to figure out like what they really want. And we get to these points, and I think you're at a point now again going like, okay, like check, like what is like next, what I want to do.
And in those hard stages, like thank God I ran into you and met you, and you were kind of one of my pivotal. What's that phrase that?
Oh, like
My
turn
rock. One of my rocks.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have any access to any sports psychologists or
Yeah, we
mental
didn't have
performance
anything.
coaches. We didn't have that, and it's just now starting to become readily available. But
Yeah.
also there is a stigma on mental health right now that as a performance coach or going into the industry, I don't want people to get confused that hey coach, I gotta have a mental day. I'm like, well, if you're my athlete, I'd probably say, hey, why don't you talk to the mental performance coach, stick around practice and talk to them how you can work it out while doing what you're here to do.
Right.
Because it's either you're in it to win it or you're not in college athletics and just elite athletics nowadays.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm kind of a hard ass for that, but
No.
in all moderation, good communication and having empathy with that communication was probably the main thing that was missing as a trend throughout my whole softball career, and I didn't have someone to talk to. So for me to be able to have that hopefully platform that I'm going to build and space to create that positive outlet for someone to have, really just passionate about it. Any way I can help is just I want to do that. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that was kind of like one of the questions I wanted to ask, is like what do you want to see like change in athletics, like from, I think, from a coach's standpoint. And we talked about a few of these at lunch today, but it was just like, what would you, because I know like from a cultural standpoint of athletics, I don't think a lot of it is from the perspective of what's in it for the athlete. It's like there's so much politics in university athletics, a lot of money revolving around it. And I wish the focus can be on developing athletes as human beings.
Right.
And we've talked about this before. So I guess it's kind of like the saying, like, be the change you want to see in the world. And I think you're like following through with that. So
I am being that.
Yes, you are that. And I guess, what would you ideally love to pursue within your field? It doesn't even have to be athletics, but kind of talk about what you want to see, like athletics, and then maybe where you want to go with your skills in your career as well.
Right. I think that probably break it up into a few things.
Yeah.
But one, first and foremost, as far as athletic departments go, I think that, and this isn't on any athletic department in particular. I've talked to lots of people with different athletic department experiences, and there isn't enough focus on the athletes themselves. A lot of their business, they wouldn't be an athletic department without the athletes. So giving athletes a voice within their own athletic department, maybe show that you care a little bit more. I think that's just an overall trend.
Yeah.
In NAIA, NCAA, JUCO, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think because you're already creating young adults to go into the workforce with that kind of work ethic
Right.
and skill set, people skills, that why would you shy them from, letting you hear their voice and what they have to say and make things better?
Mhm.
I'm sure there's some athletes that could probably run athletic departments better than the
Yeah.
actual athletes
Yeah.
themselves. But I think instilling like some sort of, I think one of my dreams, we'll see if this evolves, but I could see myself being an athletic director. And
Yeah.
on top of the mental performance skills, I would implement some sort of system, right? This is a rough draft, really
Yes.
rough.
Yes. Let's hear it.
Kind of be some sort of universal system that teams follow and instill certain weekly meetings, make sure the organizational leadership as a whole is good and
Yeah.
the vibe is positive and healthy. So
Yes.
that way there isn't any communication problems. Like things happen, of
Right.
course. Have some sort of system,
Yeah.
right?
I love
And it's
that.
all comes back down to sports psych, and there shouldn't be one team without that resource at all. So I definitely wouldn't let that happen at my school.
Yeah.
So if I was in charge, I would be like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. It's going to be a fun time to kind of mold something. And
Yes.
of course, everything's always available to evolve, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't, say, hey, you got to stick to this plan,
Right.
have an open space.
Yeah.
That's what I would do for that. I grew up loving music too. Maybe I'll dive into mental performance coaching skills for musicians and
I love
um,
that.
music producers,
Yeah.
DJs.
Yes.
So, kind of looking into that. But first and foremost, I really want to finish my hours. I think signs are really pointing towards getting that certification. And I'm like a little bit over halfway, so I'm
Yeah.
getting there.
Yeah, you're so close. And I think once you finish it, I'm so excited to be able to have you as a resource for what I'm building with Smile. Like the mental emotional aspect of it is so crucial, and I think is the next big thing that should be focused on.
Yeah,
And
100%.
and I think just like I have this like passion for, I mean, just seeing, like, working in an athletics department and being an athlete and seeing these things, I really like, I want the focus to come back to developing the athlete as a human being. And
Right.
it's gotten better. Like even,
Everyone's unique. Like, we're
yes,
not robots.
yes,
We may be fit, but
yeah, yeah. And I felt so much shame for leaving my sport. There's just like so much pressure around it and the athlete identity and just like all these things. And so I would love to see that turn around and say, hey, like what decisions are best for the student athletes. And I think I've just seen so many decisions and people not have the athlete's best interest in mind. And of course there's money involved like in those decisions and things. And there's a total balance, but being able to not just say that you're here for the athletes and that you want to see the athlete's best interest, but actually create some action to make it happen. And so I just want to, yeah, really just like put it out there that we can help change the world in a way of just like starting to be those people that we like wish we would have seen or
Right.
wish we would have had. Like I'm like, I want to be the coach that I wish I had, or
totally. And you don't, if there isn't those resources given, you're gonna have these athletes. I mean, including me. I think I will always be surrounded by softball and want to be involved with the softball world. It's never leaving. Do I want to coach necessarily softball right this second? No, because I have some goals that I want to reach as far as mental performance, and I think I can always fall back on softball.
Right.
Softball's always got my back. It's around the corner,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
It's my first love,
Yes.
right? Besides my parents, love you. But I think there's a huge need for some sort of coaching training. Not that a coach needs to become a mental performance coach and be certified in mental skills, but I think there needs to be more of a push of coaches going through some sort of regulation or some
Yes.
sort of certification or
Yes.
confirmation that they went through these skills with someone in person. It's not COVID anymore, so we can meet and talk about these things,
Right.
or just do coach seminars, something. Um,
Yes.
because if these resources aren't not only given to coaches, how are these trends going to change? They're not going to change.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
if these sources aren't given to the athletes right now, how probably I don't know the stat, so but I'm just guessing that at least half of the athletes in the world
Right.
will move on to coach.
Yes.
So, or the
Yes.
other half, I'm afraid that they lost their love for their sport because they were so burnt out. They
Yes.
had a terrible coach that didn't care about them or told them you weren't big enough or you're too small.
Yeah.
You need to gain weight, you need to lose weight, whatever. It could be loads of different
Right.
things.
Right.
But there's a trend going on with you got to give and take in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Because if you want, I mean, I just spoke it. I still have to deal with, I did just hang up my cleats 3 months ago.
Yes. You're
So
so fresh out of it.
yeah, I probably won't. I mean, personal lessons, online coaching, mentoring,
Right.
anything that I can do to practice my craft with mental performance,
Yeah.
I will do,
Yeah.
of course. But as far as being a head coach, um, well, shoot, maybe if I was a head coach somewhere, maybe that'd be freaking cool.
That'd be so
But
so cool.
I love the JUCO level. I can see myself coaching at the JUCO level and implementing. So if I did get the opportunity, maybe I shouldn't put that out there. I
Yeah.
should probably put out there that I'd be grateful with every opportunity that I'd get, and I would implement those mental performance skills
Yeah.
and
And
tell everyone about it.
And it's like this is completely reasonable things that you can implement no problem. Like I just can't believe
It's
how
funny. It's actually quite simple.
it's so simple. And I just am like going through a hiring process um to coach for San Clemente High School. And like there's so many courses that I have to take, like a bazillion and
Yeah.
a bazillion more than there used to be. Because there's like all these other things that coaches like have to be aware of and stuff. But some of them are just like, oh, this is stupid.
Yeah.
But the other like this is so reasonable. It's so reasonable and it's such a no-brainer in my mind going, okay, like how can we set this precedence? Like that's it. Like educating and like maybe that's another thing you can get into is like and like put out some YouTube videos on like for the athletics department is just like get the information out there because at the end of the day everybody wants their athletes to perform better. But there is like if there's any sort of like mental blockage, there's like so much emotional stuff that these kids deal with and like I see it like every single day and whether it's from parents or this and that and like it's so rewarding being able to like give the kids the skills to be able to like take this information to their parents, present it to them about like certain things that they're dealing with and just like oh I'm so glad you told me about that. Like there's nothing more rewarding, but it would be so easy to implement just a few like hey these 10 things like checklist things to go through to make sure your athletes like you can spot this or you can I don't know. I'm like so passionate about it.
It's the educational aspect. It's like there's no reason we're humans living on this earth, and why would you learn a certain amount of information and knowledge and just stop?
Right.
Like keep learning, keep evolving.
Yeah.
That's the only way we'll make our world better is to learn more.
And people do that with the physical aspect of coaching, like and some don't and are stuck in their ways with not evolving performance techniques, like physical performance techniques. But this is why I'm like, this is the next big thing. If you want to see athletes become better people and better performers on and off the field, like the stuff you're doing. So I'm somewhat jealous.
And it's not, you're a helping hand though under the sports psych or psychology umbrella. Like it's a huge umbrella.
Well,
it's
yeah.
You're a piece of the puzzle for sure.
Oh, thanks.
Need more Chelseas in the world. But also on top of it, I believe I will be helping out with some sort of online mentorship. Still waiting on some information on when that would start and when I am allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
But mental
Absolutely.
performance coaching isn't just for the athlete. It is a wide range, and I just want to emphasize that
Yes.
because we are all individual people with normal occurrences of anxiety, and mind you, there is good and bad anxiety,
Yeah.
and ways to figure out what your peak performance level is so that way you can maximize your potential.
Right.
Um, but I could talk to a coach and give them these skills. I'm like, hey, I would totally do a session with a coach to
Yes.
help them implement these things into their practice. And then what if the coach is having some issues? Or
Mhm.
they just want to be a better coach. They may not have any issues, but
Yeah.
they just want to get better,
Right.
right? Going to a mental performance coach doesn't mean, like I said, you're not broken. You just need some guidance or need some tools. It's all perspective. It's
Yes.
just perspective.
Yeah, it's true. And I look back and we had like one of the he's a world renowned sports psychologist that works with Red Bull athletes, athletes from all over the world, business professionals, like
Mm-hmm.
all the same thing. And I had there was that stigma and I was like, oh well, I don't have anything wrong. And there were other girls that were going and I didn't understand it. And I just wish it would have saved me so much like hardship. And like I said, it all like works out. But I had all of these amazing resources at my fingertips, but I was like no, like I'm good.
Right.
I don't need that. And whether that was just like my own ego, I think it was just my ignorance of not knowing. One, I was completely depressed and like it would have been so helpful to have someone recognize that in me. And then two, just like, yeah, I just didn't, when I was busy, it was just like one more thing to go do, but we were required to take sports psychology. And I like went back through my notes and I'm like, I took a class from this guy and I can't
Right?
believe I didn't understand fully what he was talking about. And yeah, it's amazing. So I'm just like, yeah, I love that. So I think first is just like the acknowledgement of it, the introduction, the stigma,
Yeah.
changing the like taboo-ness around like sports
100%.
psychology.
100%. That's what I'm about. I guess we're going to see how that evolves. I think that anyone, is capable of following what they're passionate for, even though when it's you find yourself in tough times of wait, pausing yourself
Yeah.
and saying, "What the heck am I actually into?" Um, so this is definitely a field that is you have to be an opportunist and you have to be entrepreneurial
Yeah.
and you have to kind of make a name for yourself, and then that way how the heck am I going to help people if I don't get my name out there,
Right.
right? And then how are you going to reach those athletes to, get to talk to me or talk to them about wellness stuff? It works hand in hand. Whatever you ingest, whatever you think about, whatever you talk about,
Right.
it all is a continuation. What goes around comes around kind of process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love that. And I'm so excited for you because I'm like, I need to have you on again just to talk about different elements of like
yeah, we can
sports,
dive deeper.
sports psych. And so
Yeah.
just like time wise. But I think if you were to give like maybe just a few like quick tips off the bat, like
Mhm.
when you first start working with anybody, where do you start with them? Like what's your like basic starting point for an introduction to sports psychology and mental skills training?
Yeah, so usually when I sit down with someone for the first time, it's very common for any sports psych or mental performance coach to have some sort of intake. It's kind of like a personal quiz, but also it gives me a background of
Yeah.
what you're going through, or maybe you have something hard that you're going through, or you don't. But are these skills still necessary?
Right.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. It may something down the road may come up, but I don't want it to come from a negative standpoint, right? It's like I said earlier, it's just guidance, right? And so one of the first things that I do is, talk them through that form, or it just depends on also how I meet them and get
Absolutely.
the connection.
Yeah.
Um, if I meet them and I kind of tell them what I do, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I need that." Well, cool. I kind of already got a conversation in with them, but first session, first encounter is usually very free flowing. Get a sense of where they are mentally right now. Take notes.
Yeah.
I have some observation skills, so I kind of notice their tendencies, like they're the nervous type, are they talking fast?
Yeah.
Do they have good relationships with their family? Are they in a relationship? How was their life growing up?
Right.
Um, and then one of the first things after one of these intake sessions, I
Yes.
meant intro sessions, but it's all right.
You're intaking information.
Yes, exactly. I usually send them away with some sort of activity that instills some awareness that they didn't have before they came into the
Oh,
session.
yeah.
So my trend right now, I really like this because I want them to have immediate results. It may not always happen. It's a
Right.
process. Everyone's unique and different, so everyone's on their own timeline. But the biggest thing, especially if they don't know what sports psychology is or mental performance skills is finding that awareness and really hearing your internal thoughts. I have noticed a trend that everything stems from that self-talk. Is
Yeah.
it positive or is it negative? What is that little voice in your head saying to you? So I usually send them off with some work and let them know to, if they're working out or just around family or just throughout the day, even listening to music, if it invokes any sort of emotion
Right.
that takes them back to something traumatic or whatever's going on with them, jot it down in their notes app. I let them know they can share it with me or not. And then on to the next session would let them tell me about that experience and
Yeah.
if they felt any new profound awareness for themselves and their own thoughts. And so far, it's worked.
Yeah.
And anyone can do that. Literally, mostly everyone has the notes app on their phone.
Yeah.
Jot down your own thoughts throughout the day. If you catch yourself saying like, "Oh gosh, I can't do this," or "Gosh, that person did not make me feel good, and now the rest of my day is going to be crap." No,
Yeah.
write it down.
Yeah.
That just really gets any individual a little bit more aware of their thoughts and what's going on, and kind of takes you on the beginning of the path of being present in the moment. And so
That is
kind of just build off of that from there.
yeah, and that's brilliant because it's kind of like bringing awareness to that voice in your head. And for me, for a long time, I had to separate like that voice in my head from what was like my truth, like what
Right.
was like coming, what is my soul, and what was just like the monkey on my back whispering negative things in my ear. And I had a very negative conversation to myself constantly. And I think you learn that from different things. And I like the sports psychology journal we had, it was like I didn't even realize what I was doing while I was doing it. But once I had this like awakening, it really was an awakening to gratitude. And when I was discovering like and building this concept of smile and always like looking for the positive, like I was diving into positive psychology so much. And so I found my sports psychology journal from college, and everything that I wrote in there was focused on what was wrong, and like rather than like what was going well. Like there were so much into that. And that
We're creatures of habit, so you don't probably even notice until you are shown a difference.
exactly.
Right? You have something to compare
And
to.
that was this awakening
It's like
that I
when you set
had.
goals.
Absolutely.
You need to be able to compare it to something in the past that you just did. Or else
Yes.
you're going to have a little more trouble reaching that end goal.
Right. I love that. And so I think such a brilliant like place to
Right?
start, just like being aware, because that was eye opening to me, going, oh wow, like I do like talk negatively to myself all
Right.
the time, and oh, it does what to my brain, it was all these things I was learning about.
Right.
And I basically had to rewire the way I was thinking, as I like was stuck in depression and negativity, and like knowing that I needed to be like here, like it was almost difficult to close that gap, but the awareness like gave me like power, like I don't know, it was like I can't think of a word for it, but it just made me
It
feel
makes you feel lighter.
yeah, it made me feel like
And
more in
then
control of what's
it's
going
like
on.
enriching. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's motivation, your influence in that moment too.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think a lot of athletes and just people have chips on their shoulder. heavy baggage. I did a talk for Westcliff,
Yes.
actually, that I talked to them about having baggage.
That's
And
right.
I'm very visual, and I picture a literal luggage case, going on,
Yes.
on an airplane. And, gosh, my assignment that's due next week, or this communication problem I've been having with my girlfriend, or my parents got a divorce, or there could be loads of things. So this is just, clothes after clothes of baggage that you have to carry.
Yeah.
And if it's something that isn't going to affect you within the next 5 minutes, what why would you still hold on to that?
Wow. It's
And
good.
there's also a activity that you could do where, say you were to give me a piggyback ride right
Okay.
now, I would be your baggage,
Yeah.
and you would hold me as long as you can.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you get tired? So what happens if you just let go?
Just dump you off.
Yeah, yeah. So like, even if I hold your rock,
Yes.
hold your rock.
Yeah.
Chelsea has a rock right here in the studio. If you're not watching the video, if I were to hold my arm out holding this rock, like right now, it's fine.
Yeah.
But like the longer I hold this rock, my arm's gonna start to get tired.
Yeah.
So eventually, my brain's gonna get tired of my baggage. So enough about baggage. I think you get the point.
No,
But it's easier than we think to let go.
Yeah.
But it needs to be talked through. It's not just something like, oh, just let go of that. That shouldn't bother
Yeah.
you. No, that is not how you should tell someone to let go of their baggage. You can't just tell someone that you shouldn't hold on to that. Just let go of it.
Come on. Just,
Chill
yeah.
out.
Just be
What do
happy.
people say? What do people say? Like, dude, why are you mad about that?
Yeah.
That's just things that I hear
Mhm.
nowadays. People my age, that's how people talk to each other. That's not how I like to affiliate myself.
No.
And I've learned that the hard way as well. I definitely was one. I think everyone has been at that point. But once I
Absolutely.
became aware
Hmm.
and gained those skills,
Yes.
I sat down with my friend and told them, hey, like, I was wrong. More humble pie,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
I was wrong. I'm working on my communication. Like, dude, I should be able to hear you out if you want to tell me, like, hey, are you okay? Like, you should try to let go of that. I shouldn't. I got really emotional when someone would tell that to me.
Yeah.
Am I in control of what someone else says? No. I'm in
Right.
control of what I can do and what decision I'm going to make next. And that comes from awareness.
Yeah. And gosh, it's like there's so many, so many adults that don't even like have these skills too. And it just like bleeds into
Yeah.
poor leadership and corporations and everything else. I definitely would love to sit here and pick your brain about more things, but I will just
I think
say
we could talk for hours.
for hours we really could, and we should do another one, even if you're
Do
somewhere
virtual.
and back home. But I will say I saw you give that talk about baggage at that wellness day we had. And there was like a line of people coming up to talk to you about stuff afterwards. And it was just amazing to see these people feel, I think, just relieved and just knowing the awareness of like, oh, it's not my fault. This isn't like,
Or should I be thinking this? Or, oh, wow, other people have these thoughts?
yes,
It happens.
yes. And I think that is the biggest thing in mental health with depression, anxiety.
Even had an athlete just tell me that after one session, they feel lighter.
It's incredible. And I think just like knowing, a friend always told me, a problem shared is a problem halved. And I think being able to like talk about these things, just bringing awareness. I saw like a genuine like lift, like it was a heavy topic,
Right.
but I saw the energies just lift in the room after these athletes would listen to what you had to say. The ones that were really paying attention and
Right.
into it, right? The ones that like kind
If
of
I
blew
were
it
to
off.
just get through to one person in that room, it was a successful day for me.
Yeah.
And on top of it, I will say that energy in a room can be detected so easily,
Yes.
and energy spreads like wildfire. So if you want bad energy to transfer, then it will transfer.
Yeah.
So you might as well choose positive energy and put that onto other people.
So if anybody wants to work with you one-on-one with what you're doing, they can reach out to you.
Yeah, I could talk to teams, I can talk to coaches, I can talk to if you have some sort of leadership group and you want to improve your group communication skills or just increase the culture of the group. There's a wide range.
Lily, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And we'll catch you guys next time. And keep smiling.
Thanks for having me.